Hello, welcome back to Poppin' Often with Lofton. It is great to see you. Let's talk rank inflation. What is rank inflation? You might have heard it thrown around a lot in higher ranks on Twitter, Discord, but you're like, bro, I don't even know what rank inflation really is. To briefly sum it up, rank inflation is when a player is at a higher rank than they deserve. So let's just say a gold player is for some reason in diamond. That is rank inflation. So why is rank inflation a problem? Well, the higher you get, the more of an issue it is. Having someone, let's just say, again, a gold player in diamond, it's kind of rough, but you're not at a major disadvantage because everyone is relatively around that skill level anyway. But if you go to somewhere like Eternity and you have a diamond player that just coasted to Eternity, that is a problem because the skill bracket is so wide, it's so diverse that you're going to end up in a situation where you're most likely not going to win that game. A lot of the times what these players generally will do is when they start getting beat pretty hard or when they feel like they're not doing that great, they'll default and play a third healer. Now, a third healer is meta sometimes, but it's not always necessary. So you have someone always swapping to third healer, making your whole entire team have to pick different characters to compensate that, which doesn't really help because, again, the problem isn't the character, it's the player not belonging in that rank. So we know what rank inflation is, we know why it's a problem, but what exactly causes rank inflation, and can the developers do anything to fix it? Now, there's a multitude of reasons from player to player on why they feel like there's rank inflation in the game, but based off my experience of playing on PC and on console, I've pretty much narrowed it down to the point where it's like, okay, these are probably why this may be happening. So the first thing that causes rank inflation, and this is not really my thing, this is something that you'll see a lot on the Discords and in the community of Marvel Rivals itself, is the game forces rank ups. What this basically means is that as long as you play a lot, you will climb. And to an extent, that's true, but it doesn't go all the way. There's a cutoff for when this happens. So let's just talk about how this works before we dive any deeper to like what it actually does. Pretty much almost all competitive games that I can remember, I'm not going to speak for Marvel Rivals, but just my past experience with games, usually the developers set up a way so that way you feel like you're making progress even if you're having a really hard time making progress. This is something that generally stops around the time that you can get that ranked reward. So with this game, it'll be gold. With League of Legends, it's gold. I believe with Gears of War, I played a ton of Gears of War back in the day, and they had it too. The lower rank you are, the more points you'll gain. Once you start getting a little bit further, you start seeing a drop in how many points you earn. Now, the point increase isn't major, it isn't massive. You're not gonna just automatically just climb because you're playing the game. That's not how it works. But it's just a good way to safety net you. Marvel Rivals also has a shield that blocks a loss. Like, they want you to get to gold. A lot of these games want you to get these rank rewards. They don't want you to stress out and grind continuously and not gain anything. Again, this usually stops once you get that reward. Once you hit platinum, you start to see your points start to dip. Once you hit diamond, you're gonna see it dip more. And you're eventually going to reach a point to where you only gain as much points as you lose, or it's like maybe 2 or 3 points more you win sometimes, or 2 or 3 points more you lose sometimes. I also want to just add, generally speaking, the amount of points that you gain in competitive games are based off your skill or your win rate. So in League of Legends, again, if you have a high win rate, you're going to get more points even after that gold cutoff. In Marvel Rivals, if you play really well or you have a lot of wins, you're going to get more points even at that cutoff. But someone who's kind of struggling a little bit to get to gold, you're not going to get many more point increase because the game's like, okay, you deserve to be where you are anyway. That's what it's usually trying to gauge for the most part. The second thing that could be causing rank inflation, and this is my personal thing, is that there are specific characters in this game that will definitely inflate a player's rank. Every role has this, but we're going to use support just because it's the more obvious of them, because support characters are nuts. So as an example, let's just say there's 2 players, right? We have 2 players that are able to now play ranked. They both are bronze, they hop into rank. One is like, bro, I really love Invisible Woman, and the other one's like, bro, I really love Cloak and Dagger. The Cloak and Dagger will climb much quicker and much easier than the Invisible Woman. That is due to the character being extremely strong. The Invisible Woman will have to put in significantly more effort to be more impactful to her team because the Invisible Woman lacks damage, versus something like Cloak and Dagger having the damage, having the ability to heal, having the ability to outplay their own opponents on that accord. Every role has characters like these, and there's multiple of them. If we talk about DPS, Iron Fist players, Spider-Man players, Black Panther players, I say it all the time when I'm doing reviews and when I'm coaching, and I usually point it out because you can really see like who's climbing with these characters because they are really great at the game and they understand their fundamentals, or the opposite of the spectrum, which is they're climbing because these characters are universally very difficult to deal with. This is generally what makes people feel like one-tricking is bad when you play only one character and climb with it, because they feel like, oh, when you're banned out, you no longer can play your character and then you're not a good player. That's not really what happens. The players that generally climb that way with these characters usually only know how to play that character because they never learned how to play the fundamentals of the game. I can one-trick Cloak and Dagger, but understand how to be a support, understand how to impact the game without bonus damage and without putting toxic fog everywhere, you know what I mean? Like, that is a skill that a lot of high rank players have because they understand the fundamentals of the game. If you have a player that never really had to worry about that because the character bypasses how those fundamentals work, well, once they're banned out, yeah, they're not gonna know how to play the game at all at any level because they don't even deserve to be there. It was the character that brought them to that rank. However, of course, as more and more characters are released, more and more characters will probably feel a bit overtuned in that aspect, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. But until the player base knows how to deal with these characters a lot more consistently, you're going to be able to get away with playing a lot of these stronger characters until that point happens. The last thing that causes it, in my opinion, is just being in a pre-made. Players who climb solo or with maybe one extra person have a harder time climbing than a player that plays in a group of 5 or a group of 6. Especially because I noticed on PC, there are tons and tons and tons of Smurf players running around, which means there's a lot of players that are playing with their friends, trying to help them win and climb. And there's nothing wrong with playing with your friends, of course, but if you're someone who strictly pre-mates and then one day you just decide to, hey, I'm gonna play solo rank where my friends are gone or something like that, you're not gonna have the know-how or the fundamentals. You're not gonna have that in your pocket when you play solo, and you're probably gonna get, mobbed on. You're gonna get stomped. And the reason that happens is because when you pre-mate, a lot of your friends or your family, whoever you're playing with, again, I don't wanna say pre-mating is bad, it's not. But a lot of the people that you play with cover up that weakness that you may have. I was actually streaming the other day and someone was saying that they tend to play really aggressive because their friends play aggressive. But once they're not playing with their friends, they still tend to be aggressive and they start to KO a lot. And that is a prime example of someone who's used to playing with a pre-made or with a squad that usually once you take away that squad, they don't know how to play the game. They only know how to play their part in that squad, not how they play their part in an actual team setting of randoms. So at the end of the day, what will be a so-called solution for this rank inflation issue? In my opinion, I don't think rank inflation is as common as people may think it is. A lot of the times players are just playing a character they don't know how to play, or they're playing a role they don't know how to play, sometimes willingly. And we think that's rank inflation when it's not. It's just someone playing a different character. Also, sometimes players just have bad games. Having the ability to avoid someone you don't want to play with in the next match is already the solution to dealing with the rank inflation. And in my opinion and experience, I feel it's something more of a confirmation bias. If someone has a bad game on their team or a string of bad games, they're gonna say, oh, you're doing horrible, you're 0-11, you're inflated. The player could just be having a bad game. Some people just have one-offs. If you go to that player's match history, sometimes you'll notice it's like, oh, that was just a bad game, or oh, they're playing a character that they don't normally play. Whether or not they choose to, unfortunately, that happens in every game. Sometimes people are like, hey, you know what, today I'm gonna just play this character that I don't know how to play because I seen a streamer play it and I think it's good, and they lose your game. But that's not rank inflation. So wrapping it up, is there rank inflation? Yes. Is the rank inflation so strong that players are just soaring through ranks and getting away with whatever they want to get away with, and it's just ruining the entire game as a whole? No, it's not as often as you would think, and it is probably just one of those bad games from that player. You could run into someone who is inflated, but it's very few far in between, and obviously the more you play the game, the more you're gonna have that chance of running into that player versus someone who plays a little bit less than you. But at the end of the day, that's just my opinion, that's just my experience. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think and how you guys feel about this rank inflation. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you inflate that like button. No, that wasn't. I'm thinking about turning this into a series. I love talking to the community and I love seeing what you guys have to say and what your opinions are on certain topics. If you do have a topic you want me to talk about or visit, let me know in the comments below, and then I can make the next topic about your topic. Until next time, you know what I always say. Think you guys are doing what? Popping often. We'll often.